My name is JavkOfAllStates, and welcome to my inaugural YouTube video. This is my first ever video on YouTube, and at best, this becomes something that you guys like. You know, my content gets around, people appreciate it. Oh, this guy's kind of cool. At worst, it is a passion project, and my kids get to see it one day, and they end up saying, "Dad, you were kind of weird, but also maybe a tiny bit cool." So, welcome to my channel. I hope you come back and I hope you like this video. We're gonna be talking about Palau today. Let's do the rundown. First things first, let's do a little bit of background on this beautiful island nation. So, Palau is a tiny country in the Western Pacific. It is technically in Micronesia, the region, but it's not in Micronesia, the country. Within Micronesia, Palau is part of the Caroline Islands, and the Caroline Islands I think it's like 500 islands in the Western Pacific, but Palau itself is just one small archipelago on the western side of Micronesia, the western side of the Caroline Islands. Palau is home to just over, I think, 18,000 people, and the main languages are Palauan and English. They also have some regional languages like Japanese, Tobian, and I think Sansoralese. Sansoralese, somebody correct me if I said that wrong. Palau's capital city is Gurulmud, and its largest city is Koror. In 2006, Koror was the capital, but then they switched it to Gurulmud. And within Palau, there are 16 states. One of them in particular I'll be talking about a lot more later in this video, so you guys should stay tuned. They also have some really cool flags, as you guys can see. Palau gained independence in 1979, but before that, they were part of the Spanish Empire. They were owned by the Germans, the Japanese, the Americans. I'm pretty sure they were owned by the Philippines at some point. So the fact that they're their own independent nation today is quite impressive. I mean, getting over 4 major colonial powers is a big deal. So shout out my Palauans. So growing up in my household with all my brothers who were super competitive about knowing geography, knowing Palau was like a flex. Right? It was like if you knew what Palau was and you knew where it was on a map, you'd be cool. And I get that this is a biased take because I'm an American, but you know, you got your countries like, let's see, you got countries like everybody knows about. You know, your USA, China, France, etc. All the big bullies of the world. And then you go a level down into your next tier. You know, you've heard of these dudes maybe. Maybe you've never met them, but you know they exist. I'm talking about guys like Colombia, Turkey, Belgium. Then you go down to the third level, and you start hearing about countries like Togo, Mongolia, and Suriname. Like, And finally, you get to these guys. Like, what is Japan's inverted flag doing here? Like, no, bro, you got it all wrong. Like, you know, that's Palau, bro, that's so cool. Anyway, I hope you get what I'm saying. It's like, it was rare. It was cool to know what Palau was, right? In this video, I'm going to go through a couple different sections, some of my favorite things about Palau, some things I think that you guys should know, and the whole point of the rundown is basically I kind of get to talk about specific things about this country that I like. So let's get started with the first segment. I mean, we absolutely have to. Guys, this country is beautiful. Palau is a wondrous place, unlike anywhere else in this entire planet. So Palau is known around the world for being breathtakingly beautiful. It is home to coral reefs, they have lush jungles, their maritime environments are extremely unique, and in Palau you can see sea turtles. I remember seeing giant clams, lots of fish that you can't see anywhere else in the entire world, and what's really cool is in the southern part of the archipelago, there are a lot of limestone islands. They're called the Rock Islands. I think I've got some footage for you guys on the screen. And these islands are kind of like, they're like mushrooms. They're like islands with jungles on top, and they go right into the water. There are no beaches. So it's a really interesting site, and it's actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And for being a small island in the Pacific, Palau actually has a surprisingly deep culture and history. Indigenous Palauans have been living on the islands for thousands of years, and still to this day, Palau is one of the only countries in the world that is a matriarchal society, meaning that women hold positions of prominence and influence in the social order there. So it's a little bit different than a lot of other countries in the contemporary world. And Palauan culture is very tied to the nature around it, particularly the sea, and a lot of the customs and traditions that Palauan people have come from their relationship with the nature around them. In fact, when I went to Palau, they actually, on my passport, had me sign a pledge that I would keep the country clean, that I would do my part in honoring the Palauan traditions of being good stewards of the environment. And I thought that was super, super cool. And to my knowledge, Palau is the only country in the world that does something like that now. Rundown topic number 2, we're going to be talking about the Battle of Peleliu. So if you've ever been to Thanksgiving and your great-grandfather has been talking about his days in the war, he might have mentioned this. So the Battle of Peleliu took place in 1944 between the Japanese and the Americans. And it is considered one of the more forgotten, but also cruel battles of the Pacific Theater during World War II. This battle, some American Army generals called the toughest battle of the Pacific War. And it resulted in one of the highest casualty rates for American troops in any Pacific assault due to the intense resistance from the Japanese defenders who were determined to fight to the death, who were entrenched in this island, and saw that death was a more honorable way to go out than surrender. So these guys weren't playing. You know this painting? Yeah, the one from all the memes. It's called the 2,000-Yard Stare, and it is literally based off of what the artist, Tom Lay, experienced during the battle. Yeah, like, this is how bad it was. There's also another one of Tom Lee's paintings called The Price, which is even more graphic, and I definitely suggest you guys check it out if you're interested, but yeah, be warned, it's pretty gruesome. Topic number 3, we're gonna go through the battle of the big boys, America versus Chinese relations in Palau. So Palau's geographic location places it in the backyard of 2 of the world's biggest superpowers, right? And depending on how you look at it, it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. You see, Palau receives a lot of financial assistance, defense security, and American services from the red, white, and blue. And in return, Palau allows Uncle Sam to use their territory for military purposes, and they generally vote the same way on international issues. Also, Palau carries American beer, so hell yeah. Now, China sees this and naturally doesn't like Palau being buddy-buddy with their #1 adversary. So the good old People's Republic likes to offer Palau financial aid and some economic investment. And while if you go to Koror, the various shops with Chinese lettering may make it seem like China has a foothold in Palau's economy, they still generally side with the Americans. But why is that? Right. All right, section number 4, buckle up, you guys are gonna wanna hear about this. Betel nut. Okay, so you may have heard of this thing if you've traveled anywhere in Southeast Asia or the Western Pacific because it's pretty integral to a lot of the cultures down there. But in Palau, you're gonna find a lot of people chewing the betel nut pretty casually, and it's not super uncommon for people to offer it to one another as a gesture of friendship or goodwill. Like literally on my first night in Koror, I walked into a store and I saw that they were selling betel nuts there. And at this point, I had no idea what this little green nut was, so I decided to ask the woman behind the desk what exactly this thing was. And instead of telling me, she called her friend over, who was also in the store at the same time, to show me. So this woman comes to me in the store, me and my girlfriend who's right next to me. We buy the betel nuts, and I buy her some beer because she's about to show me how to chew this thing, which is part of our culture. And we walk to her house, and we're in this courtyard, and she is showing us how to eat this betel nut, right? She cracked it with a knife, put ground up, I think, limestone in the nut, and wrapped it in a betel leaf and started chewing it. And her mouth got red, you get a little bit of like a fuzzy feeling in your chest. It's interesting. It's not like anything else that I've ever experienced. I mean, it's not super euphoric or it's not a super dramatic experience, but it's pretty cool. It's, it's part of their culture. It's part of Palauan culture. She ends up feeding us some chicken, some raw fish, which kind of tastes like ceviche, if you've ever had that. And she invites us over for breakfast the next day. We show up for breakfast the next day, and the First Lady of Palau is just there eating breakfast with us. So, and she was super nice. So moral of the story is if a Palauan ever offers you a betel nut, you accept that. For my fifth and final section, we're going to be talking about how Palau genuinely has the nicest people in the entire world. While I was in Palau, I had the pleasure of meeting lots of different Palauans, some from Koror, some from the main island of Palau, and some from Kayangel State. And Kayangel State is in the northern part of the country. It is a small archipelago off of the main island, and there are only 50 people who live in this state. So it is an extremely tight-knit community, and there are only boats that leave to Kayangel from the capital in Koror, pardon me, not the capital in Koror, from the biggest city in Koror every couple days. It's twice a week. I don't remember the exact days that the boats go on. But it's about a 2-hour trip from Koror. You go up across Palau and through the strait, and then you get to Kayangel. And Kayangel was super interesting. You can see the ocean from one side of the island looking out the other, so you can see right through all the trees. Apparently, they also grow a lot of bananas in Kayangel, so they have this saying called just to it. Tu is the Palauan word for banana, so it's kind of like Nike and bananas. Just to it. It's pretty cool. So while my girlfriend and I were in Kayangel State, we actually met a Palauan family there who were on staycation. They said that Kayangel was their favorite place to go within Palau. And, you know, I'm a white guy. My girlfriend is also white. We were pretty sunburnt out there in Kayangel. And we didn't totally know what to do, but this family totally took us under their wing, and we were able to go spearfishing with them, regular fishing with them. We had a barbecue where we spearfished the fish in the water and then put the fish on the grill and ate it. It was delicious. And they even invited us over later that night for, what was it? Crab grilled cheese, which was delicious. And you know what? These little crabs that you can find all over Kayangel, they're extremely cute. They love coconuts, so if you put a coconut on the ground, they will go towards the coconut. You can find them in trees or on the ground. But man, they were delicious. You can't eat them straight up, but ask a Palauan to make you some crab grilled cheese because it is unlike anything else you've ever had. It was so sweet and cheesy and mwah, perfect. And aside from this family already going out of their way to spend time with us and introduce us to their culture and how they live their lives on this island, we had actually told them that me and my girlfriend didn't have a hotel booked back in Koror for the final 3 days of our trip. We were just planning on going back and just seeing what was available. But this family was so kind. They asked me and my girlfriend if we wanted to stay in one of their vacant apartments that they had in Koror free of charge. Their only requirement was that we took care of their 3 cats that lived in the apartment, and it was an easy yes. And their cats were so friendly, and it was so fun, and it was so sweet of them and so altruistic of that family to do that for us, people who they had never met. But that's just what Palau is. They are beyond kind, not just to each other, but to visitors, and they're extremely willing to share their culture and make you feel at home. So of course my girlfriend and I said yes. We were extremely grateful. We took care of their cats, and here's a view of Koror from their apartment. I think it was maybe the 3rd story. There aren't too many tall buildings in Koror, but the sunsets were always beautiful, and it was such a blessing to have that experience. It's something that I personally will always be grateful for, and a reason why I think that Palauans are the nicest people in the world that I've ever met. Guys, and with that, we are done with our first YouTube video ever. I hope you guys enjoyed my content. It has been some hard work, but also a pleasure making this for you guys. Let me know in the comments anything else that you'd like to see. I generally want to cover on this channel my own travel experiences, but also just commentary about what I think about countries and these social phenomenon that are happening around the world. So yeah, I would really appreciate it if you guys liked my video. Subscribe if you want to. You could be one of the first subscribers if I ever go famous one day. But yeah, thanks for sticking around, and hope you guys have a great day. JavkOfAllStates, out!